guys, today's gonna be a little bit of a different video. I know I don't usually do story type videos, but I thought I'd tell you the story of my CRP. I hope this is as exciting for you as it is for me. I'm very excited to share that story, and if you do have a CRP story yourself, feel free to drop it down below. I'd be so excited to hear some of your stories. But let's get into it. I actually took some notes this time. I usually don't take notes. If I keep looking down, I'm very sorry. I just need to make sure that I'm telling you everything I want to tell you. All started 10 years ago. I was like 9 or 10. Actually 11 years ago now. It was 2010. We went to Florida for the first time, me and my family, and our grandparents also came with us, which was really cool. And none of us really spoke English. Like, I had learned English in school, my dad spoke a little bit of English, my sister was really young, I think she was like 6 or something. Yeah, none of us really spoke English. We were all very overwhelmed with the situation. It was still very magical though. It was great, and I look back on that trip very often. We lived really far away from the park. We lived in a small house, everyone together, and it took us about an hour each day to drive to the parks and then another hour to go back. So we were all very exhausted, and we only ever got to spend one day in one park. So it was a very stressful trip. Personally, it was all very overwhelming. I know in Epcot we got those big red headphones that translated everything for us, and when we got on the rides, we told them to like speak German, so everything was in German in our headphones. It was actually really cool, but we looked ridiculous like with those big red headphones. Like, everyone could tell we were not from here. We were at least a little bit closer to understanding everything, and I know that understanding the people talk to you is a big part of the Disney experience. Like going to character meet and greets or talking to the cast members or seeing all the shows, they only really make sense if you actually understand the language. I've had that experience in Disneyland Paris where everything was in French and I was like, what's going on? So I really think that understanding the language is a big part of what makes Disney magical, and if you don't understand, it's not quite as magical as it could be. There we are, running around Epcot, having fun, looking at all the different pavilions, like being like, oh, this is so funny. It was funny, it was cool, we liked the experience, and we also did the Kit Kat. I don't know if it was called Kit Kat at that point, but where you go around and collect signatures, and I know in Japan and in China they wrote your name in Japanese and Chinese characters. It was really cool. It was something that you could experience without really understanding the language. And then we were in the German store. I don't know if you guys have been to Epcot, but the Germany store, there's one store there that has lots of Christmas things, and apparently Germany is very famous for the Christmas cucumber. So we were standing in front of this tree filled with a bunch of green cucumber ornaments, basically. The whole tree was full of them, and we were like, what's going on? What is this? We didn't know those cucumbers at the time, and so we were just loudly making fun of it because we didn't know that the cast members there were actually German and that they spoke German. So this girl came up to us and she started speaking to us in German, and we were like, oh, she understood us, like she knew what we were saying, and it was a little bit awkward at first but really cool. Then in the end, that was the first time on our trip that we were understanding someone and we were able to talk to someone, and someone was German and they spoke our language, and we were like, whoa, you speak our language. Yeah, it was really cool. She talked to us for quite a bit, and she explained the cucumber thing to us, which, fun fact, the parents had one, not 20,000, one cucumber in the Christmas tree, and the first kid that finds it gets to open their presents first. We actually have a cucumber now that we hide in the tree. I got it as a present once, but we didn't know that before. It's not really a thing that we do where I'm from. We learned something new, and that was really cool. And she also talked to us about the program, the cultural representative program, which was the first time I heard about the program and the first time I heard about the possibility of living and working at Disney. And she explained to us that she was there for a year and she was German and she was gonna go back home soon, and she told us the name of the program. I was like in love already. Like, yes, I want to do that, because the whole experience had been so magical to me, and all I really wanted was to be a princess. To be honest, I still really want to be a princess. It was like the next best thing. I was like, if I can't be a princess, I'll be a German girl running around explaining people the cucumbers. It was just very magical in that moment. That thought had like manifested in my head. And the CRP for me, it was a real possibility of actually being able to work for Disney. It was just something that I really wanted to do at that point, and at that point I was like, yes, I will do this at some point. I will go and do the CRP. And then years and years and years passed, and I thought about the program time and time again, and I finished school. I was 17 when I finished school, so that was 2018, and all I really wanted to do was go to Florida, and I emailed them asking them if there was a possibility that I could apply even though I wasn't 18 yet, and no one ever answers because Disney is really bad at answering emails. So I couldn't apply because I wasn't old enough. It like kicked me out in the first step when I had to put in my birth date. It was like, nope, you're too young. Anyway, I did the next best thing. I booked a flight to New Zealand, and I spent 10 months in New Zealand, but the thought of the CRP never really left my head. It was always this opportunity that I had given up, that I was not gonna go, and I was like, I'm gonna regret this if I don't. So I looked on the website, and I didn't even think that the applications would be open because I didn't know anything about the application process. I was just like, I want to do this. So I looked on the website, applications were open, I applied, I wrote a really nice cover letter and everything, telling exactly this story. A few weeks later I got invited to an interview. I was so excited that I got invited. I was like, yeah, and then I saw that it was in Frankfurt, Germany, and I was still in New Zealand, all the way across the world. New Zealand is literally the furthest you can get away from Germany. I can't go because I can't go to the interview, and I emailed Disney again and again. I was like, can I do something? Can I do a virtual interview? Can I do an interview in New Zealand? I'll even fly to Australia if you want me to. I'll do whatever it takes, but I don't want to fly to Germany yet. And it took months. It took literally months until I finally got an interview appointment. It was April at that point. I applied in December, and it was April when I had my interview. I had a virtual interview. It was a lot of fun. It was really, really cool. I was sitting in a library in Sydney because I didn't have Wi-Fi at my hostel, so I was sitting in the library really early in the morning. And my interviewer, she actually did it outside of her work hours. It was really nice, and she was really funny too. She laughed about all my jokes, which was really good. I don't know, job interviews most of the time are not fun. They're always very stressful, but this one was really fun. I talked about my experience living in New Zealand. I talked about my experience in Australia. I talked about my story of how I wanted to go to the CRP, and for me the interview was just a big milestone. It was something I had wanted to do for so long, and I was getting one step closer, because when I got that invitation I was like, this is not gonna happen because I can't fly to Germany, and I was really, really sad, and I had given up hope already. And then I was able to do that interview, and it just brought me one step closer. So that took me 4 months from the application process to actually doing the interview, and then 2 days later, literally 2 days later, I got an email saying you've been accepted to the Disney program, and that's when things really took on speed. I sent my program free. By the way, if you guys want to see a video of everything I paid to get into the program, do feel free to tell me down below. I have everything written down. I can do the math for you guys, and I don't know if that's exciting for anyone because things will probably change now with Corona. That would be something I can do if you guys want me to. I started planning, I started watching a lot of YouTube videos actually, a lot of CRP videos. I was like, well, what is this really about? It was really hard for me to find German CRP people posting about the CRP, so I had a lot of British people. Also, the interview process in the different countries is very, very different. I know in the UK it's really hard to get into the program, but in Germany it's quite easy, and the interview process is not as bad. Obviously, I'm not a good person to talk about the interview process since I had a very different interview, and I don't know if things would have been different if I had been there in person. I was just so excited. I remember I slept really badly in those days when I waited for the feedback of the interview. I woke up in the morning, it was like 6 a.m. or something, in a hostel with like 4 other people. Looked at my phone and I was like, I got an email, and I opened it and it was like, you've been accepted, and I was like, what? I tried my best to not scream or anything because people were still sleeping, and I had a friend I traveled with at that time, and I'm sure she got very annoyed of me only talking about Disney at that time. So I'm sorry if you're watching. She's probably not, but I'm sorry. I got home in August. I talked to my interviewer first if it was okay, if I could get everything done. She was like, yeah, sure. So I got home in August, and that's when things really became stressful because I needed to get my police clearance, I needed to get my visa. I was home for 2 months. I came home from New Zealand in August and I flew back in October. So I had 2 months to do everything. It was fine. I managed to get everything done, but I was so afraid that I would forget to do something and that I would be turned away at the immigration station. And it went well, all good. Yeah, in October I stepped onto the plane ready to make magic. I bought a cool new suitcase with Minnie Mouses. I was so excited to go to live this dream that I had wanted to live for years and years and years. For literally 10 years, all I wanted to do was go to Disney World, and I did that. The rest is history. You guys know what happened. You guys were with me for a big part of the journey. But if you do want to hear some more stories about my CRP, of what I did, or any questions you might have about the program, of course, like I said, things might change with COVID. Yeah, any information you want, you need, anything you want to hear, please feel free to drop it down below. And like I said, tell me your story down below. It would be really exciting. I know that my story is a very long one, but I hope you enjoyed this. It's a little bit different than what I usually do. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today. Thank you so much for hanging out with me through my whole program. It's really been a pleasure, and I'm so glad I have those videos to look back on when I go again. I'll be back vlogging again. Check out my Instagram if you want to be updated on everything I do, and subscribe if you haven't already, and stay magical. Bye bye.